You know, the UK's offshore oil and gas industry, it's got this reputation for being one of the safest in the world. But is it really? We're about to go past the headlines and dig into the official data to uncover a story that's, well, a lot more complicated than you might think.
So let's start with a big number. For 2024, the most important statistic is 0. That's how many worker fatalities there were in the entire UK offshore sector. I mean, on the surface, that's incredible. It paints this picture of a perfect safety record, right?
But hold on. When you start digging into the health and safety executive's own inspection reports, a very, very different picture starts to emerge. Look at this. Nearly a third of all their safety assessments were rated as poor, very poor, or even unacceptable. That's a staggering number for an industry where the risks are so high. So this is the central question we're tackling today. How do we square this? How can you have this perfect fatality record on one hand, and then these widespread safety failures on the other? Is it just a strange paradox, or is it a ticking clock? Let's find out.
Okay, to really get what's happening out there, we need to understand the rulebook. The offshore industry doesn't just wing it. It operates under this incredibly strict safety framework. A framework, by the way, that was basically forged in the fire of the Piper Alpha disaster, with one single goal: prevent another catastrophe.
And the whole system, really, it rests on this one key idea: the duty holder. Now, this isn't just some manager's title. The duty holder is the single entity, the operator or the owner, that is legally 100% responsible for the safety of every single person on that installation. The buck stops right there. And their job is huge. We're talking about responsibilities laid out in regulations like PFEER 1995. They have to manage everything, from assessing major accident hazards to preventing fires and explosions, and of course, planning for emergency response, escape, and rescue. It is a massive life-or-death mandate. So, who holds these duty holders accountable? Well, that's the job of the Health and Safety Executive, or the HSE. They're the official watchdog, the regulator for more than 300 offshore installations, making sure these critical safety rules are actually being followed.
So we've got the rules and we've got the watchdog. But the HSE's own data shows that some serious cracks are appearing in the system. Let's take a closer look at the 616 non-compliance issues they found in just 1 year, so we can see where things are really going wrong.
And the data points to two main culprits: maintenance management and control of work. Now, these aren't just minor paperwork errors. These are failures in the fundamental systems that are designed to prevent major accidents in one of the most hazardous environments on Earth.
And as the HSE's own principal specialist inspector put it, and I think this is so important, the problem isn't the procedures on paper, it's that people aren't following them. So the crucial thing to understand here is that this is a failure of practice, not just policy. Let's get into some real-world examples. We're talking about failures in something called process isolation. Basically, that's just making sure a piece of equipment is safely shut down before anyone starts working on it. And the failures? Things like not identifying hazards correctly, using diagrams that are totally out of date, or taking dangerous shortcuts instead of waiting for a proper planned shutdown. Each one of those is a potential trigger for a disaster. And it's not just the internal procedures that are failing. A new and very physical threat is popping up more and more. The HSE has flagged a rising number of collisions between supply vessels and the very offshore installations that they're to service. So why is this happening? You might think it's some complex equipment failure, but nope. The causes are alarmingly simple: distraction, losing lookout, and just plain poor communication. It's not the tech, it's the people. In one case, an officer was literally busy writing up meeting minutes as their ship just drifted right into the rig. These are basic human errors, creating a massive collision risk inside the 500-meter safety zone.
You know, all of this leads to a pretty critical question about the regulator itself. Given these persistent failures, is the HSE's approach actually working? Are they an effective watchdog, or have they maybe become more of a collaborative partner?
And here's where we find another paradox. On one hand, the HSE's collaborative programs get praised for driving major safety improvements. But then, on the other hand, you look at hard enforcement, and the numbers tell a really different story. Out of more than 600 non-compliance issues, only a tiny handful of official notices were actually served.
And this is the crux of it, isn't it? While collaboration is great, the fact that the same core problems in maintenance and work control keep showing up year after year, it really suggests that this softer approach might not be enough to force the deep fundamental changes that are needed.
And this whole challenge isn't standing still.
The offshore industry is in the middle of this massive evolution, and that's bringing a whole new set of risks that have to be managed really, really carefully.
Just think about how complex this is. Operators are juggling two enormous tasks at the same time. They're trying to safely manage infrastructure that's decades old while also pivoting to decommission old rigs and build brand new renewable energy platforms, like offshore wind farms.
The rules are definitely racing to keep up. There's a new international safety standard, the IP code, that's being brought into UK law. It actually creates a whole new category for industrial personnel who work offshore, and it sets much higher standards for their transport, their training, and even their medical fitness.
So, when we bring it all together, we're left with this stark paradox. The industry has achieved this amazing, life-saving record of 0 fatalities. But lurking just beneath that perfect number are some really significant systematic weaknesses that the regulators themselves are pointing out year after year.
And that leaves us with one final kind of unsettling thought. The data shows pretty clearly that the absence of a disaster is not the same thing as the absence of risk. So in an industry where the stakes are this high, you really have to ask, is a record of no accidents the same as being truly safe? Or is it maybe just a matter of time?